Hello there and welcome to CNR Extra, coming to you live from our studio at number 5, Ola Hansen Day, Tesano, Accra. My name is Philip Nilate. Coming up, former Environment Minister and Chairman of the defunct Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, accuses some government officials of being complicit in the fight against illegal mining. Meanwhile, lead partner at Africa Legal Associates, Gabi Ochudako, one of the people who were accused by the former minister of interfering with his work, has dismissed the allegations.
The minister come and tell me that when I called him, I instructed him, in inverted commas, to do what was not right. Let the minister come and say that when I called him, I was pushing an illegitimate point.
Organized labor reiterates stands not to have government include their pensions in the domestic debt exchange program.
We therefore urge the Board of Trustees of all pension funds not to honor the invitation to participate in the so-called alternative offer for pension funds.
Chairman of the Greater Accra Regional Security Council, Henry Quartey, directs divisional and district commanders of police to liaise with various metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies to ensure compliance with the ban on drumming and noise making.
I will hereby direct with immediate effect that you instruct your divisional and district commanders to work with the MMDCs to ensure that there is strict adherence to the ban on drumming and noise making. There will be no exception. I repeat, there will be no exception.
And later on CNR Extra, Electricity Company of Ghana Task Force uncovers about 30 apartments connected illegally to the national grid without meters.
We have a meter here, all right, but because of the wrongful connection at the back of the meter, yes, the meter is not able to pick the correct consumption of the customer.
CNR Extra is live on CCTV, and as always, you can join us via our WhatsApp line 0204-447-033. We are streaming live on YouTube, and you can join us there on CityTube. Jude Mensa Duncan, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Philip.
How are you doing, my brother?
Oh, I'm doing very well.
It's a Friday.
And we are excited.
Let's bring you the very first story. And Professor Frimpong Boateng has accused some government officials of being complicit in the fight against illegal mining. Let's bring you that insight.
Former Minister of Environment, Science and Technology and Chairman of the defunct Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Professor Kwabena Frimpong Boateng, has accused some government officials of being complicit in the fight against illegal mining. Professor Frimpong Boateng says key individuals, including officials at the Jubilee House, interfered in the work of the committee that was to lead the fight against galamsey. In a report cited by City News, Professor Frimpong Boateng says his committee faced a lot of challenges during its work. City News' Sami Yafe has more.
The 36-page report sent to the Chief of Staff at the Office of the President says some MPP bigwigs engaged the services of Chinese nationals to do galamsey on their behalf. Professor Frimpong Boateng says, and I quote, "Throughout our struggle with illegalities in the small-scale mining sector, what baffles me was the total disregard of the President's commitment to protect the environment. I can state without any equivocation that many party officials, from the national to the unit committee levels, had their friends, PAs, agents, relatives, and financiers engaged in illegal mining." Unquote. He continued that, quote, "Most of them engage Chinese working for them. I'm not referring to party people who had their legitimate concessions and were mining as instructed to do. there were appointees in the Jubilee House that are doing or supporting illegal mining or interfering in the fight against the menace. Professor Frimpong Boateng, who was chairman of the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining set up by the president in 2017, in his report stated that apart from ministers of sanitation and local government and rural development, all other ministers abandoned the work of the committee. Quote, to make matters worse, the chairman was personally attacked, vilified, and framed for things he had not done. Such assault came from many people, including some of the ministers who effectively left the work of the committee. The report added that an MPP MP in the Ashanti region used his position as a member of the Minerals Commission to acquire several large-scale concessions in his district, ostensibly for community mining purposes. Professor Frimpong Boateng says the MP ended up selling these concessions to private individuals, including party members, for an amount of 200,000 cedis per concession. Quote, this angered the party in the constituency, so during the 2020 primaries to elect a candidate, the electorate voted against the sitting MP, who was more resourced than other candidates, unquote. Meanwhile, the former member of parliament for Manson Kwanta, Joseph Albert Kwam, has denied aspects of the report that implicates him. He says he has never owned a mining concession, neither has he been involved in Galamsey.
Don't even have a penny of a concession, just a pin of a concession, let alone several, 12, multiples of 12 and others. No.
And he says you sold them for 200,000 cedis. So that
is why I'm saying that once I own one, then of course the second assertion that the second statement that he's saying
would hold.
But I don't have a concession.
Professor Frimpong Boateng in the report also cited instances where leading MPP officials served as legal counsels for persons accused of involving in Galamsey and destroying the environment and water bodies. The former Minister for Environment says he put together a report dated 19th March 2021 following an order from the Chief of Staff. He, in the report, also accused a reporter of engaging in unlawful excavator sale and money laundering at the behest of some government appointees. He disclosed that there were people in government that wanted him out because of his stance on illegal mining activities in the country. Professor Frimpong Boateng disclosed that the very beginning and actions of military personnel deployed to effect arrest of illegal miners triggered the entire falsehood about him being responsible for the missing excavators at the time. Quote, the true story is that at the start of Operation Vanguard, the soldiers were supposed to arrest the excavators, but they will go into the forest and remove the control boards of these excavators and come back to report. But when they went away, the owners will come with different control boards and move the excavators away, unquote. In an interview with state broadcaster GBC in March this year, Professor Frimpong Boateng disclosed that there was a grand scheme to get him out of office following his fight against illegal mining.
We got a report that they had immobilized over 750 something excavators. So we appointed somebody to go around and check. When we went around, I think we got about 150, 200 that we could see. Okay. The rest had either been given to the owners or they put in some extra parts and moved them away. Okay. And then somebody put it out there, from Boateng has taken 500 square. What am I going to do with it? There was an orchestrated scheme, even within the party and government.
To get you out.
To get you out. So that, look, why is it when I left, now everybody is in the forest? At that time, you dare not enter the forest. Yeah. You know. But as I said, I don't want to go into details now because I have a lot to say on that. But let me tell you that I did not take one excavator for anything. And they know the truth. Now things are coming up. We know those who are behind it and the party people who are there, people in government, including Jubilee House, who are doing Galamsey and so on.
Well, meanwhile, the lead partner at Africa Legal Associates, Gabi Ochridako, who was one of the persons who were accused in that report, has denied the allegations.
Lead partner at Africa Legal Associates, a law firm in Accra, Gabi Ochridako, has dismissed allegations by the former Minister of State, Professor Frimpong Boateng, that he had interfered with his fight against illegal mining in Ghana. In an exclusive interview with Vivian Kai Loko of City News, Mr. Ochredako explains that the claims of the minister were unnecessary. He adds that the only reason he called the minister was to ascertain a report his law firm had that his client's legitimate operations were being frustrated by the minister, although they have received all the lawful permits needed to engage in exploration.
So I'm here with Gabi Ochredako. I'm here with him because his name has been cited in that report that was presented by Professor Frimpong Boateng to the Chief of Staff on issues around illegal mining, Galamsey, during his tenure, and some of the challenges he faced and people who he says interfered with his work. Now, Gabi's name has popped up twice in that report, so I'm going to seek his thoughts on some of the allegations made against him. So let me start with the first part and read it quickly, then we start. It says, despite the fact that Cabinet directed the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources to suspend the issuance of all new license permits by the Forestry Commission and also to suspend the licenses already issued for operation in 47 forestry reserves, the directives were ignored and the distraction continued. Where still, soldiers had officially been withdrawn from mining sites, but in many areas, regular Ghana Army personnel were seen providing security at illegal mining sites. Now, what saddened me most was when Mr. Gabi Ochredako called to defend a company that was actively destroying the environment, especially the forests and river fin in the Aprapama and Krobo forest. Should I continue with the rest? Then it says, yes, we were ready to dislodge imperial heritage from Krobo Forest when Mr. Gabi Ochredako called to inform me that he was the lawyer for Heritage Imperial Limited, a company that was destroying the Krobo and Aprapama forest reserves, and in the process had also polluted and diverted the course of the River of Fin, as can be seen in the satellite images below. I informed the president about the behavior of Mr. Gabi Ochredako, and he promised to deal with it. Are you lawyers for Heritage?
It's very unprofessional of a minister to personalize an issue such as that. Very unprofessional to drop a name on a matter that was purely about a lawyer asking questions about his client. Heritage happens to be a client to one of the lawyers at my firm, Adam. And Heritage had a prospecting license issued on 25th October 2018, okay, which was to expire October 2021. I believe what the minister is referring to happened after this. I think it was in 2019 or 2020. I can't recollect, but he has the date. They had a mining exploration operating permit issued 18th July 2019. They had a forest entry permit issued 12 November 2018, and also an EPA permit. My lawyer comes to me and says that his client, with all these permits and licenses, goes on site with equipment to do prospecting, and the soldiers have come to seize the equipment. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, what do you do as a lawyer? The first thing I did was I asked, but are they with your people? Said yes. So I spoke to the. So
you called the soldiers first?
Yes.
Okay.
To ask what really was going on. And then they said that they were acting on the instructions of the minister. So I called the minister for clarification. Clarification in the sense that I have a client who has all the documents or permits and licenses required to do prospecting. Everything. And he goes on site, and then soldiers come to basically stop, not just stop them from working, but to seize all the equipment. So I asked the minister, but they have permits, so what really, I want to understand the issue. And then the minister fires back and says, they are not prospecting, they are mining. And I said, but minister, the information I have is that they took the equipment on that side today. So I want to be educated. Are the equipment for prospecting different from those that you need to mine? He couldn't answer. And I asked the technical people. They said, no, they're the same equipment. I said, so, I mean, they've just going on site today. So how can you? Said, oh, well, they shouldn't have been given the permit to enter the forest. I said, well, I mean, are you challenging the permit as fake? Said, no, but it shouldn't have been issued. I said, yeah, but that's a different matter. But I just want to understand really what the issues are. Is it that, so essentially he gave me his side of the story, which is that he believes that what they were doing was mining, not prospecting, even though they had just gone on site. And that was the conversation that we had.
So what happened after that? Did you then tell him to let the people continue with the work? What kind of intervention did you make?
My intervention was to understand why a company, a legitimate company, with all the licenses and permits required to do prospecting, was being stopped from doing their work. And that's what lawyers we do.
In this case, they were in a forest reserve, and per the rules around the illegal mining thing, people in the reserves, particular reserves, were supposed to halt operations. How different is this?
There was no issue about halting operations. It was an issue of being issued a forest entry permit. And they entered the mining concession after they were issued all the permits. So even if there was an issue, then it is an issue between the regulatory bodies. Okay? I mean, I wasn't even, if you like, it's not my brief, as it were, but it's because their job was being frustrated. And I had before me all the documents that they required to do legitimate mining, and they were being frustrated. That is why I placed the call, to understand why that was happening to them. I'm very disappointed in the minister deliberately, because that's all I can say, deliberately twisting an inquiry by a lawyer of a client's issue to be an interference. And the thing is, this is a phone call that lasted maybe 3-4 minutes. And he said, it ended by saying, look, they shouldn't have been issued the license in the first place. So that's when we ended the conversation. So I went back to ask the question. I said, no, it's the Forestry Commission that issued us this license. And for me, that was the end of the matter for me, in terms of my dealings with this matter. My lawyer took it up, and it was resolved.
But to the extent that, I mean, whether you want to admit it or not, most people know that you have some clout, you're influential, and all that with regards to government and all that. You calling the minister, it's not out of place for him to feel that you're interfering based on this background.
Let the minister come and tell me that when I called him, I instructed him, in inverted commas, to do what was not right. Let the minister come and say that when I called him, I was pushing an illegitimate point. Let the minister come and say so. If you read, has he said anything like that? All he said, because my points, I based my intervention on the legality of what my clients were doing, and what I saw to be the illegitimate action of the state against a company that the same state had issued permits and licenses to undertake its business legitimately.
Now, in this report, he says he told the president about what you had done, and the president said he would deal with the matter. Did the president ever call you or speak to you on this particular matter?
But it even tells you how weak the minister's understanding of his position is. If what I did was illegitimate, why don't you take the right action? He's going to report me to the minister as if he's a teacher, and the president is a master, and I'm what, a school prefect, and I've done something wrong. I mean, what kind of silliness is this? I mean, I don't even want to comment on that. That he reported me to the president. For the president to do what?
Call you to order.
The president is a lawyer. The president is a lawyer, and he knows that lawyers are supposed to what? To protect the legitimate business of their clients. So why would the president call me on a matter like this? Why would he even go to the president to complain? Because it's not as if he was going to say that when he got the soldiers to freeze or stop the people from working, I went to give a counter instructions to the soldiers. And the soldiers, ignored his and took mine. Do you understand what I'm saying?
You're calling him, asking questions, snooping around. Isn't that interference, Gabi?
No, but really, isn't it what you do?
My job is to snoop around, get information, and all that.
And my job is not to protect the right of my client.
I think I can't speak for him, but you think the issue to do with Gabi as a person, not as a lawyer.
But I'm saying that when I called him, and he is in his report, I told him that I'm a lawyer for the company. If they have all the permits issued legitimately by the state entities that are supposed to issue the permits and licenses, if they are working, then you, the minister, you have no right to interfere.
But
that is what he did.
Yeah, but he found out.
What he did is rather what I saw to be interference, not me intervening on behalf of my client.
So he found out along the line that what they were doing, they were in a reserve they shouldn't be. He has a right to speak to the regulators to stop their work or get the work to be stopped whilst investigations start, because obviously that permit wasn't issued under his regime as well.
No, but he was what? In charge of what? Science and environment? And there was an EPA permit. It's not under him. It is under him. EPA permit that was issued. I can show you a copy of the EPA permit. Is that not under him? Good. There was a forest permit, entry permit. It was not under him, but it was under a commission that is a constitutional body. Okay? All right. So really, if I call him to understand the basis of the action he had taken, and yes, I mean, I'm able to call him because I have to protect the interests of my client. And if I called him because I felt that he was acting ultra vires, outside of his powers, I'm the one who is in the wrong.
What happened to your company in the end, your clients? What happened to them?
In terms of when the truth was established that they were doing things legitimately, what were due them, which they could retrieve, they got them back.
So they've left, they're no more mining there?
Not that I'm aware of.
So Gabi Otredako has denied the allegations. Also, former MP for Manso Nkwanta, Joseph Albert Kwam, has also denied the allegation he was fingered in the report. Charles Bissell has also denied the allegation. We've not heard from Lord Komeni Telkochu. And you know Potozwa?
Yeah. That was an interesting nickname.
He was also fingered, among others. But Is the fight still on? The war against this illegal mining?
I mean, Philip, this report all but explains in a very worrying fashion why the fight against illegal mining to a large extent has been lost in this part of or in the country. And for me, going through the reports when it was put out or leaked in the media exposes very worrying trends of the relationship between campaign financing really and illegal money or illegal mining money and that kind of relationship that exists. Also very worrying for me is the issue of influence peddling really among people in very influential spaces. And like I've said, very, very disturbing. I mean, and if you're a concerned Ghanaian who's been following this issue, you should be alarmed at the current state. And for me, really, listening to the responses of people who've been indicted in this particular one, for me, it's also been brought another interesting spectacle to all of this. But you see, Philip, in all of this, really, right? You look at the person who is at the center of this, Professor Frimpong Boateng. This is a man with vast experience in science. I mean, he was the founder of the National Cardiothoracic Center in Kolebu, founded it himself. He was a heart surgeon for many years, studied medicine in Germany. He has some experience, right? He performed the first open heart surgery in the country. And I mean, of course, the president had the confidence in him to put him in a very elevated position as Minister of Science, Environment, and Technology. Now he puts out a report like this. For me, I'm of the view that, see, he's not an ordinary person, right? So if he says or comes out to make these very strong allegations, if you disagree, it's in your right to challenge it and use the proper medium or cortex to seek redress. And for me, the kind of trajectory where we've seen some sort of persons, party foot soldiers on social media come out to make it look as if there's no merit or there's no, it should be treated, the report should be treated with some contempt, for me, is quite worrying. Because, I mean, look at this, you want to narrow it down to the issue involving influence peddling and the allegations made against Mr. Gabi Otredako. For me, I am of the firm belief that with the kind of experience and the standing in society, really, he should be able to tell, that's Professor Frimpong Boateng, should be able to tell the difference between prospecting and mining. I don't think he doesn't know what he's talking about, like some people want us to believe. So for me, it's a deeply worrying situation. It exposes why the fight against Galamsey has been lost. I expect the president to actively act on this and take some very firm decision on this matter. And of course, I mean, the media, everybody, stakeholders, collective action. We shouldn't let this be another issue where it just slides out the window when the emergence of another hotly or another interesting news item breaks out again. And like I've said, all those who have been mentioned, I think it's in their right to come out and explain their side of the issue. I don't expect this to be a media war. Like I said, if you disagree, take it up in the proper quarters. But the whole the state of play where it's being made to look like someone like Professor Frimpong Boateng doesn't know what he's talking about, for me, it's quite unfortunate. I think we need to take everything he said there seriously. We need to place some premium on it. Like I'm saying, he performs open heart surgeries.
In your opinion, is the fight against illegal mining still on?
It's lost. I mean, per the basis of this report, it's lost. And I heard people
I see a lot of people think the report just came yesterday. This report dated 19th March 2021.
Yeah, I mean, the start of this was when he granted that interview to GBC. But I mean, of course, this is a report he presented to on the request of the Chief of Staff to account for his tenure as the chairman for the Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. But like I'm saying, let's take this seriously. Let's stop creating the impression that it's a report that shouldn't be given the necessary attention.
If you are saying that the fight against illegal mining is lost, what happens to the amount of money that were channeled into the fight against illegal mining, i.e. the recruiting of the military officers, taking speedboats, drones, going there every now and then, media houses also spending money?
it will be almost impossible to quantify.
With chiefs, MDCs,
yeah, I mean, like I'm saying,
region.
even here at City, right? Look at the number of programs or the airtime dedicated to the fight against illegal mining. So for me, like I'm saying, it will be almost impossible to quantify the resources that has gone into this fight because it threatens the very existence of our livelihood, right? But like I'm saying, in all of this, it's important that people who are involved in this are made to face the law. And a good starting point will be to probe further this report that has been put out by Professor Frimpong Boateng. And for me, very importantly, is that we don't create the impression that he doesn't know what he's talking about. I believe strongly that for someone who performs open heart surgeries, like I said, definitely knows as a scientist the difference between mining and prospecting. And of course, he has technical people advising him. And in any case, you would sure want to believe the words of a scientist in an area like that as against someone who is, of course, in the law profession. But that notwithstanding, I believe strongly that we should take it up seriously. And even to an extent, Professor Frimpong Boateng, in my opinion, still has some more questions to answer. I mean, the report leaves a lot more questions. And hopefully, in the course of time, we are able to delve into way more. We are able to get better responses. And people who are found to have fallen foul of the law are made to face the consequences of it.
Exactly so. And if you've not had a chance to read this report, I would entreat you to look for it and read, because it has a lot of revelations in there. But some of the people in there that have been fingered have denied the allegations. You are still watching CNR Extra here on City TV, still to come. Electricity Company of Ghana Task Force uncovers about 30 apartments connected illegally to the national grid without meters. Stay with us, we'll be back with more stories.
Plus is a fully skimmed evaporated milk. Creamy Plus is available in a shop near you.
This message has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Welcome back. This is CNR Extra here on CCTV. My name is Philip Nilati. I'm here with Jude Mensa Duncan. You can join us via WhatsApp line 0204447033, and we are streaming live on YouTube on CityTube. Let's bring you some more stories. An ECG task force has uncovered 30 apartments connected illegally to the national grid.
Now, the Accra East region of the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG task force, has uncovered about 30 apartments connected illegally to the national grid without meters. The discovery was made when the task force embarked on the National Revenue Mobilization exercise on the last day of the nationwide program. Meanwhile, the national security installations at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle have also been disconnected for 3 weeks, creating discomfort for service personnel. Now, City News says Fred Duho has been with the task force since the inception of the exercise. Today being the final day. He brings us the details. Fred.
Today obviously it's the last day as scheduled by the Electricity Company of Ghana to end the National Revenue Mobilization Exercise, which was intended to recoup some 5.7 billion Ghana cedis from customers who owe the electricity company for power consumed. Now, we are within the Adenta enclave where the task force is going into this particular house to get some illegally connected facilities of the grid. We understand this particular house, there are a number of apartments within it, and they've connected almost all of it illegally. So the task force is proceeding to take them off the national grid and then surcharge them for the wrongful connection.
This is a bypass over here. And actually what is happening is that whatever consumption the customer is using is not passing through the meter at all.
I'm only seeing cables. So when you say bypass, what is the bypass here?
Most of the wires, are not running through where it has to run through for the consumption to be be recorded. Okay. We have a meter here, all right, but because of the wrongful connection at the back of the meter, the meter is not able to pick the correct consumption of the customer. And you can see.
So in essence, these people have the meter here, but they've been able to flip the board and then to illegally connect behind so that the ECG won't detect that there is some illegality. Okay. So in this case, what are the dangers?
Okay. In fact, when it comes to illegal connections, we have two main side effects. The first one is a cost to Accra East region, and then the second one is a danger to the customer. As a danger to the customer, when you do illegal connection like this on your meter, it can catch fire, and this can spread to the other parts of the house.
Customers that engage in illegal connection, the first thing we do is to disconnect supply, and then we serve customers with notices to come to our offices for penalties, and then later we forward it to our legal team to also take them on.
If they fail to come to your office, what happens? I'm just a tenant here. I can move the following day and leave.
As we've been here today, we'll come back. If they don't report to the office, we'll come back and monitor and then surcharge them and then also hand them over to the authorities.
I believe today is the last day of the exercise. I mean, the national exercise, actually. How many illegalities, in your estimation, has the task force uncovered?
Well, for Accra East region, I might not be able to give a concrete figure because we are now compiling, as you said, we are ending today. So after today, then we compile from all the districts to know how many illegalities were detected, and then later we can give accurate figures.
The task force is moving from one building to the other, about 30 apartments, we understand, over 20 of them connected directly, while only 2 or 1 meter is working correctly. They have only 3 meters, 1 working correctly, 2 are connected or bypassed. And so which one is the correct one here? This one is correct. So this is the only correct one. The rest 2, they've done bypass. So that is the team of task force, one of them climbing the pole to take this particular facility off the national grid. And they are hoping that the landlord would proceed to the offices of ECG, and he'll be taken through the process for him to be able to acquire meters for all the 30 apartments that he's rented out, and most of them connected illegally. Some of them, they've done bypass for the meters. The entire facility has only 3 meters. Only 1 is genuinely consuming power. The other 2 have done bypass, while the rest of the facilities, they've just connected directly. The entire facility is now completely out of power. These facilities, which houses the National Fire Service, the ambulance service, and the police at this particular location, they are without light for 3 weeks now. They've been disconnected from the national grid for non-payment of electricity bill. But the information I am gathering is that they are not responsible for paying their bill because they fall under the national security. And essentially, the Assembly is also not trying to take responsibility for settling the debts. Those are personnel from the National Fire Service seated under this particular shed because the temperature in their room or in their office is unbearable. In their office right now, the fan is not working, and we can see that the television on the wall is also not working. Not working in the sense that there is no power for them to, in actual fact, power these electrical gadgets to be able to enjoy their office here at Circle. We can see that they have printers, they have desktop computers, they have photocopiers. All of it, we understand, are not working. On the back of the disconnection of power to some facilities within Circle, which falls under the Korle Klottey municipality, we've come to the office of the municipal chief executive, Honorable Ni Ajay Tawia.
We are taking steps so that we can have probably a separate meter for the municipality. So we don't have any intention of not paying our bills, but I can say there are all other security agencies that are connected to the place. So we'll just expedite things and make sure we are removed because, you know, in our case, we pay for the bills here. We pay for the bills of the sub-offices all over the municipality. We pay some of the bills of both electricity, water, and some other things also for some of the schools in the municipality. So we pay our bills. And as soon as this separation is done, you see that there will not be issues with the Assembly's bills at the place.
My name is Fred Duho, reporting from the Adenta Enclave for City News.
The 1 month long exercise to recover some 5.7 billion Ghana cedis owed by some residential areas or residential or consumers of the power, and also when it comes to industries as well. The exercise ended yesterday, Thursday, April 20. But the ECG boss, Dubik Mahama, has stated that it's not ending there. So if you are consuming power, please ensure that you do the right thing.
It's a good starting point. Yesterday on the show, I was saying he deserves a lot of commendation for this bold initiative. As far as I remember, he's been able, or the ECG has been able to raise a little over 2 billion Ghana cedis since this whole revenue mobilization drive began. It will be interesting to know the final amounts that has been raised in all of this. Like I said, I didn't expect them to raise all 5 billion.
Exactly.
But
they made the point. They made the move.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it puts a lot of companies who were otherwise not doing the right thing on their toes right now. So it's a good starting point. In his interview with Mr. Bernard Avile on the Point of View somewhere last month, he mentioned that there were plans underway to set up a court purposely to fast-track issues of power theft as and when they come. I hope that conversation is being heightened, really, so that at the end of the day, it can be realized and it can be made to serve purpose. But nonetheless, great initiative from the ECG, the Ministry of Energy, and all the stakeholders, everybody involved in this. I think it's a yeoman's job.
Exactly. And also the Electricity Company of Ghana should ensure that, well, it has stated that every last week of every month will ensure that the debtors do pay the monies that go to their various offices. So you should try and ensure that this is done so that you wouldn't have a lot of debts on your books going forward. Away from this story, and let's bring you that story where organized labor has reiterated its stance to have government include, or for government not to include their pensions into the debt exchange program. Let's bring you that insight.
Organized labor have collectively reiterated their stance not to have government include their pensions in the domestic debt exchange program. They made a pronouncement after they discussed pensions in Accra on Thursday. The discussions were to firm up the decision by organized labor with regards to the new proposal by the government on an alternative debt restructuring strategy. The following report by City News' Enu Safo has more.
In April 2023, the Minister of Finance, Ken Oforiatta, urged the Board of Trustees of Pension Funds to allow for pension funds to be included in government's new proposed debt restructuring offer. The minister in a statement explained that the new proposal is aimed at alleviating the cash constraint on the government in the coming years while fully compensating the pension funds for the value of their current holdings. However, several stakeholders have warned that any move to add pension funds in the debt restructuring program will overburden its already poor members. In a meeting to firm up discussions on a decision on their pension funds, Secretary General of TUC, Dr. Anthony Yalba, reiterated that any attempt by the government to undermine a memorandum of understanding that was signed by Labour and government with regards to the exemption of pensions would be fiercely resisted.
The leadership of organized labour has since become aware of a letter dated April 7, 2023, inviting the Board of Trustees of Pension Funds to participate in a new Government of Ghana proposed alternative offer for pension funds. We have scrutinized this letter and other accompanying documentations, and we have come to a firm conclusion that they amount to roping pension funds back into the DDE program. This request, in our view, undermines the spirit and letter of the MOU signed between Government of Ghana and organized labour. We therefore urge the Board of Trustees of all pension funds not to honour the invitation to participate in the so-called alternative offer for pension funds. Any attempt by government or the Board of Trustees of pension schemes to undermine the MOU will be fiercely resisted by organized labour. The leadership of organized labour further urges all organized labour groups to close ranks and abide by the tenets of the MOU we have signed with government.
Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Bright Rekubrobe, who was at an earlier meeting with organised labour over May Day celebrations, stated that organised labour's pensions would not be touched.
But remember, there were two legs of the MOU. The first one is that pension funds will not be touched. That is a given. The second thing is that Labour work together on the way forward. So that's the next step, and government will engage Labour on a constructive way forward.
Organised labour have given government a stern warning to not go contrary to the memorandum of understanding they signed with regards to their pensions.
So organised labour still stands by their plea or whatever they stated that government should not touch their pension funds. I remember very well last year, December, when they were signing the memorandum of understanding. I was there at the finance ministry. But in that memorandum of understanding, it stated that going forward, organized labor and government will work together and find an amicable solution on how to go about this debt exchange program. So going forward, that's what the government is bringing on board.
Philip, the finance ministry led by the minister, Mr. Ken Oforiatta, they've been quite clear in the conversation when this began, in the height of whether or not to sign up onto the domestic debt exchange program. It was quite clear from their communication that pensions funds were not going to be included, right? So I believe that that assurance from the finance minister to a large extent puts to bed this fear that government is working on it. But with the second debt exchange program, I mean, I don't know for which reason organized labor would have to come out to reiterate this point again. But for whatever reason it is, they are probably, they've heard certain things in certain quarters, for which reason they've come out with this particular one. But not too long ago, even in Washington, the question when the government delegation led by the finance minister and the governor went to Washington for deliberations on the IMF bailout. I mean, the question was posed to the finance minister again, and on that platform, he reiterated the stance that's to not include pension funds. So I hope it, to a large extent, puts the matter to rest, and organized labor can begin to look at other issues of concern to them. But I mean, if you look at the way they came out to make their stance, it probably suggests that they've heard certain things, for which reason they have to come and make their case again. So it will be interesting in the coming days, but I think it's fair enough to say we can take the word of the finance minister as things stand.
You're still watching CNR Extra here on CCTV, still to come. Chairman of the Greater Accra Regional Security Council, Henry Quartey, directs divisional and district commanders of police to liaise with the various metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies to ensure compliance with the ban on drumming and noise making. We'll bring you this story after this break.
City TV is live on DSTV. Go to channel 363. On GoTV, access City TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access City TV on your television. City TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. City TV, it's your world.
You're welcome back. Let's bring you that story where the chairman of the Greater Accra Regional Security Council, Henry Quartey, says that enough measures will be put in place to ensure that there is strict compliance with the ban on drumming and noise making.
Directed divisional and district commanders of the police service to liaise with the various metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies in ensuring compliance with the ban on drumming and noise making. This comes after the Ghana Traditional Council announced a ban on noise making and drumming effective May 15, 2023 as part of the annual Homowo Festival celebrations. Speaking at the Garmanches Palace, the Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Quartey said the directive must be fully adhered to by all and sundry in the national capital. There is more in the following report by City News' Daniel Sakite and read to you by Charles Ousukumi.
The Homowo Festival, celebrated by the Ga people, symbolically represents hooting at hunger. As part of rituals marking the festival, the Ghana Traditional Council on Thursday announced a ban on drumming and noise-making effective May 15, 2023. Addressing the media, the Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Traditional Council, Ni Late Anum Tete, outlined the itinerary for this year's celebration.
The Ghana Traditional Council announces to the public that the 2023 Ghana Homowo Festival will commence with the Shiba, that's cleansing the sacred farm, on Monday, the 8th day of May 2023. This will be followed by the Maadumo, that is a ban on drumming and noise making, on Monday, the 15th day of May 2023. During this period, the Ghana state will fast and pray for rainfall, a bounty harvest, and good tidings. The Ghana Traditional Council urges the general public to take notice and observe the rules regarding the ban on drumming and noise making.
The Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Quartey promised to ensure total compliance with the laid down guidelines, particularly the ban on drumming and noise making. He thus directed divisional and district police commanders to liaise with MMDCs to ensure compliance.
I will hereby direct with immediate effect that you instruct your divisional and district commanders to work with the MMDCs to ensure that there is strict adherence to the ban on drumming and noise making. There will be no exception. I repeat, there will be no exception. No police officer or any member of the security intelligence agencies is supposed to flout this. Ban on drumming means ban on drumming. The MMDCs are hereby directed to go back to their respective assemblies and hold MEDSEC, MUSEC, and DISEC meetings. Invite all the faith-based groups.
The chairman of the Greater Accra Regional Security Council also cautioned the task force to be established by the traditional authorities not to take the law into their own hands while ensuring compliance.
I also cautioned any task force that may be put together by the traditional council to work with the security intelligence agencies not to take the law into their own hands because they don't have the locals to do so. That has been well communicated to them.
So the ban on drumming and noise making takes effect from May 15 to June 15 as part of the activities that the Ghana Traditional Council or the Ghana State is expected to do ahead of the Homo celebrations.
I mean, Philip, tradition is nice, tradition is beautiful, and tradition must be sustained so the next generation will know. I mean, they say that those who don't know their history really are bound to repeat mistakes of their forefathers. So I'm all for tradition. Exactly. The Greater Accra Regional Minister made a very important call to the task force who will be going around to make sure that there's some level of compliance, not to take the law into their own hands. That for me, it's a very important call because there's been a lot of instances of such in recent times. So it's good that that has been emphasized. And also really, I expect a lot more communication from now up until the time the ban is supposed to take effect from the Ghana Traditional Council. I mean, I expect them to go into the media, explain to people what the situation really is. So there's some sort of understanding in the media space or in the public as to what's happening, because in the past you realize that people don't really know what is happening. All of a sudden it's like it's just been put out there because also of the fact that, I mean, in the past, like I'm saying, there have been instances where people have had cause to complain that you go to a particular area, people are making all of the noise, but nothing is being done. Then maybe some church here and there, the tax force showing up on them and all of that. So we need to, I mean, harmonize the situation at hand.
Exactly. So this is going to be done in phases, 7 states. One area will have it, another wouldn't have it. So I'm sure the Ghana Traditional Council will come out with the timetable on that. But you should just try as much as possible to adhere to the ban on drumming and noise making. This is how we end today's edition of CNR Extra here on City TV. My name is Philip Ni Latte. I did this with Jude Mensah Duncan. As always, many thanks for your time. Do have a blissful weekend and see you next week.
Let's live it up and party and have cracking good fun. When it comes to entertainment, DSTV's #1.
Is everybody ready to go, go, go?
We've got the zaniest characters to transport you away. The party is cracking, so why not come play? You're gonna love it. We've got so many channels and a ton of new shows, like Disney and Nickelodeon, where anything goes. So live it up with DSTV. We bring the fun. You know we're #1.
Did you know regular exercise is good for your mind and soul as well as your body? Studies show that physical activity can help ward off depression or ease its symptoms. Exercise helps keep our brains fit and promotes cognitive function at any age. Whether you're in your sports gear or not, enjoy the action on In Good Shape.
Let's kick off with a fitness test.